What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down fresh out. You know how we do it over here. We keep it rolling with special guests. We have a special one today. We got Nick Icardi, former Marine, host of Hard to Kill podcast. We're about to get into some serious stories, some serious knowledge, and lace you guys up. We're bringing more military on our channel because we feel that they're really undervalued and overlooked. So, Nick, tell the people some backstory on yourself, like where you're from, how you grew up, and so you can kind of give them some details.
Absolutely. Well, first off, I want to thank you for having me on the show, man. I'm a big fan. And secondly, my name's Nick, Marine veteran. I have a podcast that I've been doing recently. I'm about a year and a half into it, and so I grew up right outside of Boston, Massachusetts, New England. I've been here all my life. I don't know. Have you been up to the area?
I've never been to Boston. My stepdad is Coast Guard, so he was actually stationed out there, but I was locked up when they were out there, so I didn't get to go visit.
Gotcha. Well, I guess we're a unique breed, to say the least. I've been all around the world, and I don't think I can say I've met anyone like my kind of people. But anyways, so
when I think of Boston, I think about the town.
Of course. That's what everyone says. Either that, the Departed, Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, yep.
Those are some classics. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to the military, I don't have anyone in my family that was in. So honestly, the recruiting just did a great job on me. I think at the time that I was old enough to understand what I was seeing on television, they were coming out with the Marine and his sword slaying the dragon, and that got me hard, dude. Ever since then, I wanted to be a Marine. And you know what I'm realizing recently, just from like being on a podcast and talking about my stuff, I'm realizing that I kind of put up a front at first. I told people what they wanted to hear because I'm nervous about being on a podcast. I'm not used to talking about myself. You know what I mean? And of course, you want people to love you, so you tell them a little bit of what they want to hear. And I'm thinking why did I really join the military? Why did I join the Marines? Because my artificial easy answer is 9/11. That just rubbed me the wrong way, and it broke my heart, and I had to go get the Taliban. Someone had to stand up to the bad guys, and just going through what I went through and seeing what I saw, it's just there's always more than meets the eye, and I think I really just wanted to test myself. I really wanted to put myself in an ultimate arena and realize that I would come out. And I think that's ultimately why I joined.
So once you got into the military and went through your Marine training and you started really paying attention to what was going on around you and your officers and stuff, what awakened you? I grew up on military bases. I mean, not I was born on a military Air Force base. Lived on a military base for some years. I used to see the Marines jogging in the morning when I was going to school in the orange shorts and the yellow shirts, man. And them dudes were savages, bro. There was only I was on a Navy base, so it was mainly Navy, Coast Guard, and then you had a few Marines, but the Marines were always on some next level shit. Like the guy whose dad was a Marine, he didn't mess around. You didn't even want to stay the night at his house because this dad was he wasn't like the Navy dad,
Wasn't fucking around.
He was no bullshit. He was a different type of discipline. And I remember before I first started working out, I went to the gym and I seen some of them dudes in there benching. And they were all ripped up, just putting up weight, no nonsense, no bullshit. And I was like, damn, it looked like, they're really about their business. But I had the option of going to the military, but I wasn't really pushed. But there was always something I felt like I was searching for. So I was on a journey, and I could have easily been a military person because I had a lot of patriotism living on that base. But I always felt there was something else, on my journey. So on your journey, what was it that like you saw that kind of has you questioning your service?
It took a while, bro. This is not something I got completely indoctrinated into the Matrix, man. Like, I was absolutely an agent for quite some time. I was sold completely with the generic story of you're a Marine, you're a killing machine, you're here to follow orders, and that's it. And I didn't question anybody. I just did what I was told. I was, a good Marine. And honestly, I think about that. I actually just had a podcast recently where I talked about it. Like, when was my awakening? When did I really start thinking this way? Because I was complete opposite. Like, even here, some of the things I say today, I'm like, it just goes so opposite to how I was trained and how I came up. And honestly, it happened in country, bro. In Afghanistan, it was like during an operation, and I was at a position that was it's a cordon outside security, and there was a operation going on. So I'm basically outside, strapped up, making sure no one comes and flanks us from behind, and I'm just watching everything in front of me, and I'm just looking at what's going on, and we're just pillaging this little village, kicking open doors, ripping these farmers out, rifles in their face, like, and I'm like, you know, how is this defending freedom in America? And it's it just sidelined me. I was like going straight and just right off it. It just jerked me right off my path. And ever since then, so I was in a very kind of unique position on that deployment in Afghanistan. I was embedded with Afghan forces. So usually when you deploy to like Afghanistan or Iraq, you live on a base, a fob. We lived outside the base or the fob with these Afghans. So I was constantly living with them. So I would talk to them, and I saw a different side of these people. When you put the effort into learning like their language and you start communicating with them, they respect it and they show you a different side of themselves. And bro, when I tell you these people have some stories, they talk to me about the CIA coming there 20 years ago, doing the same fucking thing that we were, telling them the same shit, like, and they're documenting everything perfectly for me, showing me pictures, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, like, what really is going on here? Like, it's let me tell you how unsettling it is when you like burst out of this matrix bubble in fucking Afghanistan, talking to these people and thinking completely differently than you've ever thought before. You start seeing things so much differently. And I was in the perfect environment to see it firsthand. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not over in America on a computer jobbling about conspiracies. I'm actually there. You know what I mean? I'm there looking at what's around me, and I'm not looking at it from the lens of this stupid Marine that doesn't question anything and only goes forward and shoots at everything in front of him. I'm looking at it from like an enlightened person that's questioning everything now and using critical thinking finally, questioning things, like, and it was a different experience, Herc. I'm I'm finally now like appreciating everything that it was, because it took a while for it all to sink in exactly what I was seeing.
You know what though? You wouldn't have experienced that had you not been there. It's almost like the same thing you talk about is what I went through in prison. Like when I got arrested, and then I got to MDC LA, and then I started talking to some guys, and then I got to the pen, and I'm starting to read these books. I'm doing time, and one of my mentors was an ex-Vietnam veteran. He got busted for making synthetic heroin, and he knew all this stuff about the law, and he started giving me some books to read. And dude, I just my mind felt like I had got duped. I got duped. I had sleepless nights. Literally, I was looking around, and man, it's horrible when you wake up in prison. I'm looking around at these dudes,
Exactly.
and I'm like, I'm in the Matrix for real, man. I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all the tears. I'm seeing guys. dude, it's like bedlam in there. I mean, guys with 30 years, 50 years, 100 plus life. I mean, I'm in there, and it's like you got the guards. I'm like, dude, this is like this is hell. This
For
is
real,
when they
for
talk
real.
about hell, to be awake in hell and see it, and you can't leave. I was like, man. So I know exactly what you're talking about. How it just set me on a whole nother course where, like you were saying, everybody else is like, let's go Marines. These guys are in there doing time because they're like, oh, I'm a criminal, and I'm like, dude, I'm not no criminal. I'm on some other shit. I committed a crime, but this shit doesn't add up. I'm looking at the psychology, so I feel you, man. It's like, dude, I know exactly what you're
You know
talking
what's
about.
weird, bro? There's a lot of parallels between military and the street life. It's
Yes,
very, very
yes,
similar. Very
yes,
similar.
yes.
And I can tell you can feel me. Like I understand that you know what I'm talking about. Now, you mentioned being awake in prison. How difficult was it? You can't even the fact like keep in mind I'm in Afghanistan with a bunch of jarheads that are only thinking kill, kill, kill. I can't just tell them this shit, because they'll look
No,
at me
yeah.
like, what the fuck? What is what? You know what I mean? Like they'll nail me to the cross if I start talking about the stuff that I'm thinking. Similar to you being in prison, you start talking some, open stuff, like questioning everything. People start looking at, oh, is this a rat? Is he talking to someone? Is what's going on with him?
No,
They start.
you're exactly right. I had dudes wanting to fight me. I almost had a dude want to stab me because I kept going to the law library.
Yep.
He told me, he's like, "What are you doing, man?" I said, "I'm learning about the law." He said, "Man, you did your crime, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, do your time." I said, "Man, you do your time." And then he looked at me crazy, like he was gonna pull a knife out on me because he wanted me to do my time, dude. So it's like what you're saying. It's totally the same thing because these guys, there were a handful of us, and they thought we were crazy, like we were outcasts. Like you're questioning, and man, you better just do your time and not question anything and shut your mouth and listen to what they tell you. And
Yep.
that was the mentality. It's the same shit, man.
And
Same
even
shit.
look today. Now we're just labeled conspiracy theorists. Now we're labeled, don't listen to them. They're crazy. Just
Yeah.
because we're spot on, calling it like it is, and they know that we're, right on their ass with the stuff. And now, what do you? I keep saying this to people when I get on podcasts, just because I appreciate, some other purviews on things. What do you even? I've gotten deep into this, bro. Like it started with me being in Afghanistan and opened my mind up to like government. What really is the government? What really am I doing for the government? Because it's not liberating freedoms. I found out that I started really paying attention over there. I'm talking on missions, paying attention, and I started noticing capitalism was big over there. There was private. Do you know about the military industrial complex?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, I
Black
started
Rocket.
I
Yeah.
started seeing it, bro. I'm talking blacked out Humvees or MRAPs, Matt B's like mine with robotic turrets. Okay. I was a gunner. I was a machine gunner. I was operating the machine gun on these vehicles that we had. I'd drive by one of their trucks and it would be a robot in the gun. And I'm looking at them like, where the fuck are they going? Like, what are they doing? So they had mines. They were mining lithium over there.
Mm, makes sense, man.
Because what was right after Afghanistan? Electric cars,
Yeah,
batteries, all
yeah, yeah,
phones.
yeah. Wow,
It was a
wow.
play, bro. It was a play.
Though, every time there has been a war, it's been about resources, and
Yep.
from the beginning of time, whether it was for gold, whether it's for some type of uh, precious metal, some type of uh, remember they were for spices back in the day. When Cecil Rhodes and them were
Yep.
trying to
Yep.
get China, and they had the opium wars, and they
Yep.
flooded them with drugs because they didn't want to bow down. And
Yeah.
now
Wild.
China's flooding us with drugs
Same
because
thing. The same thing they did to the
same
Dutch.
thing,
Yeah.
man. Same thing. So when I look at the plays, I don't look at it just for what it is. It's just like I heard you guys talking about Vietnam, and you talk about Vietnam, and you talk about the heroin
Yep.
and how much that was it's a commodity, man, and people don't realize how much real heroin they need to make these drugs to
Oh,
tie in with
it's
the synthetic.
absurd.
So it's all intertwined, And the deeper you get, you kind of see, but it's like, man, we're so bent on our country, and we're spreading democracy, and people don't realize democracy is not what we're founded on. We're founded
No.
on a republic, and
Exactly.
then you turn around, a democracy is a debtor state. So literally,
Yeah.
when we set up our democracy, you owe us now the loan for taking over your shit and taking your resources, and you better bow down and do what we say, or else.
Disaster.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
Well,
I read some books, man, and it's just like, you're like, God, man, this shit is like, all the warlords from Africa were all trained over here. They were all trained by the CIA.
now have you put a definition on they yet? You know how we always say they,
Yeah, I know,
the
I know, I know.
who now the thing that I'm kind of stuck on is because I'm picking apart 9/11 right now. Like to me, it was orchestrated. Listen, I thoroughly believe that either the CIA, the Mossad, some intelligence agency orchestrated 9/11. I think that just because I've blown up a bunch of shit, my friend, I've done it for a long time. I know what a controlled
Let me
detonation
tell
looks
you a
like.
story about that. So I was at one of the facilities I was at. I was there with a big mob guy, and he was saying that there were some guys that were locked up in the detention facility in New York, and they were able to kind of befriend these guys and act like they had access to a phone. One of the mob guys, and they would let him use the phone. And he said that they had intelligence from one of the guys who, remember when they tried to blow up I forgot what building it was, but they got busted, and they busted a couple of terrorists before that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but those guys were in,
I
and
think it was the World Trade Center,
the
actually.
World Trade Center,
Yeah.
and these guys were talking about bombing the tied into the Twin Towers. So there was some intelligence, but he said what he told me is because they wanted the mob so bad, they didn't want to use that because the mob was like, "Hey, man, use this and let us, let's let work the deal," and they didn't want to do it. So they basically ignored a lot of this intel they got from this guy on the phone at this facility that they had, and they never really looked into it. But these guys who were talking, who were Middle Eastern descent, were talking about plans to, I guess, attack those buildings. And then when you look at the math and you start looking at like what really, an airplane, and then insinuating, and then the fuel, and how it doesn't melt down, it doesn't make sense.
No. Like
Mathematically,
think about how it hit it, like 75% to the top. Why would it collapse?
that's what I'm saying. It makes no sense.
It would fall off, or maybe fall. The whole thing would not fall down. That's impossible. Would not happen.
Well, what about the guy who took out the insurance?
Oh yeah, Silverstein, whatever his
What
name
about
was.
all the people who never showed up for work?
Yeah,
There were a lot of people that didn't show up for work for that. They had inside information.
bro. There's so many anomalies like that. It's just you look at it, and the thing that I'm really just stuck at is how could a government or anyone, because no matter what, when we say they or them or the bad guy, they're still humans, bro. They're human beings. How could someone kill that many people just for a money play, which was war?
Remember that though. That was John Ashcroft with the Anti-Terrorism Act. So they were able to push that through with no blowback. And you got to remember, Hitler had one of his, I forgot what building, attacked or blew up back in Germany. Remember before they
I heard about that. Yeah,
the Germans against
yeah.
the Jews,
And same play.
They had I forgot, a state's building was blown up, and they blamed it on something, and then they, people were up and, oh yeah, we got to do this and that. So this wasn't a new play from a playbook. This was, us, or them trying to emotionally charge the people. And as you get these people charged, they're not going to even question until it's too late.
But bro, look at Israel and Palestine. What do you think that was? Israel with their Iron Dome that shoots everything out of the sky, they couldn't see
I
gliders
know.
coming over? Are
I
you kidding
know.
me
That's
right now?
crazy, man. I couldn't. When I saw that, I'm like, how long does it take for one of those gliders to come in?
Yeah, like, come on, dude.
These guys, I mean, they were able to shoot prior to that. Remember when the Palestinians were shooting rockets and they were
Yes.
able to shoot those? Remember, they were shooting them down
Forget
just like
about
a
it.
year or two before. They were shooting down rockets. Now these guys on gliders,
Yeah.
for what, 30, 40 minutes
Yeah.
gliding in
Yeah. Yeah.
and the dome?
Here I come. Yeah.
God, it doesn't make. I mean, it does make sense, man. I mean, we're looking at right now a consolidation of authority and power,
Yeah.
and the
Aligning in
people.
one.
We talk about, like you said, it's putting everybody under one umbrella,
Yeah.
under kind of like a totalitarian system, and you have those who rule and those who are ruled, and it's
Yes.
almost like this subservient type of society. But you have these down here. A lot of people are waking up, and in order to control them, we have to rile up others so that they fight
Yeah.
among themselves. So they got us fighting among themselves, white,
Which
black.
which was what they're doing with what they're doing right now, right? With the
Yeah,
gender stuff, with the manly stuff not being ge- who knows what it is? Racism.
yeah,
Racism was another thing they used
yeah.
to cause dissension, bro. Um, you name it. You name it. They need to keep us going at each other's throats so we don't unite. And somehow, that's what I keep trying to say is how do we? You know how we're having this conversation right here. How do we say it like I don't know, safe enough or just like nicely enough so the sheep that don't believe this already listen to it and they're like, yeah, that sounds like something I can believe now.
Well, I heard something interesting today, and it was Billy Carson was talking about on Joe Rogan. He was talking about there's a gene called the worship gene, and the worship gene can be turned on and off. And you and I, Cody, Aaron, others who are like kind of conscious, we have figured out how to turn it off on our own. But some people cannot turn this worship gene off. This worship gene is almost like something that's been embedded. I feel like what he was saying in the DNA, but it's like it constitutes a kind of like a slave mentality where if we put whatever type of religion or sports or certain things in play, you will obediently follow these things and won't question authority. And to question authority, that's something that they've, from the beginning of time, have tried to control because they know what that does when they're trying to implement over the minions. So yourself, having gone to the military, Cody, Aaron, myself having gone into the system and came out and now are sharing. That's why when we talk about, like, you said, these podcasts, these platforms. That's why the platforms that entertain the bullshit get all the props. That's why they get all the momentum because I
And
could
we get
easily
shadow banned. Yeah.
we get shadow banned. I could easily, if I was talking about a lot of gang shit, a lot of like racial shit, things that don't bring us together, things that are conflicting. My channel would be, it would be off the hooks.
And
But
Adam would actually act excited when he interviewed you.
it would be more about elevation of consciousness. I mean, the men in our society who are the ones who are somewhat conscious are silenced. You have like, Dr. Claude Anderson, you have Thomas Sowell, you have there's some like, intellectuals, on your, like, look at during the whole, lockdown thing, all the doctors who were sharing they got their license took. Those guys were ostracized.
Ridiculous.
Dr. Phil now speaking out. You got all these people now like saying stuff, and it's like these guys, because they've gotten into a position where they can speak out and there's nothing they can do about it. They're the ones who are kind of leading the front of this so-called cause. Me and you are kind of in the back because we don't have that power yet. We don't have that platform. It's like Joe Rogan said, he can't be debased because
Yeah.
his foundation is so strong. So, man, it's a challenge.